Okay, thank you, František. Welcome everybody from my part too. I will present in the upcoming 30-40 minutes what we have collected on circular business models for SME. This being one of the topics identified by some partners as a relevant topic for the project and for the activities in the pilots. Some of you have already seen most of that during our previous meetings. We have a little bit of new input, so I hope you will still be able to gain something out of it. And I will start with showing briefly the agenda. So the objective of this presentation, which is, it is called training, but it's more like an introduction to the topic and provides you with information which you will need to further investigate on your own side. There is way too much here to provide it into 30 to 40 minutes, so it will require more work or more joint work in the course of the project. We'll go to the rationale for the circular transformation, some types of existing business models. I will show some examples from the industry to illustrate the circular business models, and I will briefly show some supporting material and tools as a starting point, as it will be I think the topic will remain with us during the course of the project. So the objective is to provide you with an overview of how others, because of course it is not new in our project, fully new, that we address the circular business models for businesses. So there are plenty of people who worked on that, and we'll provide some approaches and to these circular models for businesses, some examples, real examples, and tools. And I will dive directly into the topic of the rationale for the circular transformation of the businesses by reminding that we are here not discussing why circular economy makes sense in general for the world because of the scarcity of resources and so on. Those arguments we know, all of us. It is more specifically here looking at why it can make, or it should make, economically sense for a company to investigate the circular economy business models and to engage into a circular economy transition, which is a bit different because it's more on the single level of each businesses and requires more work on the culture of each businesses. There are different approaches to that. The first one is to reduce the dependence on scarce and non-renewable resources. Resources represent the costs, and those costs can be quite volatile. The supply might be unsure, depending if your resources are really critical in terms of supply or not. And the price fluctuation for scarce resources can become a real challenges to your business models. On the macroeconomic level, a typical topic would be here the rare earth for batteries, which become a question, which are a geopolitical question. But this is an example to illustrate the topic. The contribution to mitigate climate change is also rational from single businesses, not only from a corporate and social responsibility point of view, but also because mitigating climate change also basically reduces the own risks for each company, even if it's, of course, for single company difficult to have large influence. But still, the this can be summed up under the headline: increase the resistance or the resilience against external shocks for each of your businesses. So this is on this higher level. But also you can have a more practical aspects and more strictly down to the daily business points, like have a look at new regulations that might affect your business. It's better to prevent them and to be active to have an answer when the regulation comes. It can be also a good positive point for your relation with the customers, because the topic gains popularity, obviously, in the public, and it is important to react to this. And depending on your business models, it can help you turning your customers, your consumers, into regular users if you go for models like a reuse and so on, or product as a service, because you build a longer relationship with your customers. But of course, it can also improve the personal relationship with your each customers and enable you to answer to needs like the customization of the product or the retention, because obviously if the people reuse if you have a reuse model or a product as a service model, then the relationship of the customer with your product is longer, because it will not be thrown away and they will not buy maybe another one from another provider. And it's also a positive point. It can be turned into a really positive point for the attractiveness of the brand because of the customers' expectations. So you can have a positive message to your customers by improving your position on the circular economy. And if you are, for instance, a startup or a larger company even looking for investments, there is practically an increase of consideration of circular economy criteria into investments from banks, from venture capital, also public funds. I can mention the example of Baden-Württemberg, the region where I'm active, who is now starting to work on the allocation of the European Regional Development Funds for the funding period 21-27, and it's already made quite clear that you have to address different points of the Green Deal, of the recently published Green Deal, if you want to receive funds. So the at different level, the investment criteria will very likely be more and more looking into the circular economy, the circularity of your projects and investments. So those another reasons. And it can also contribute to an increase in productivity, because if you go, for instance, towards products which can be repaired and reused and which have a lesser complex set of parts, then that can be an increase in productivity, and it can also help you in general to accelerate your digital transformation, because very often the circular economy transition and the digital transformation go together. For instance, because you need the data, you need to track the parts or the components of your products. You have to track the relationship where the products go and so on. So there is a huge amount of data which you need to use, and that can help you to turn your own business into a more digital one, where it makes sense. Of course, it doesn't mean that everything needs to be digital. So the increase in productivity is seen as a potential advantage of the circular transition. There are different models, as I mentioned. I have listed 4. different models to define circular business models, different approaches. I have listed 4 of them here. There are more, of course, and those 4 are not necessarily the best ones, but they appear to be to some extent popular, and it's a selection for starting. Any other typology can also be useful. After considering the first 4, as you will see, I will go through them to show you some examples of how they work with that. You will see that they obviously come all to the same bottom lines, and so they are not exactly the same, but of course they relate to each other. Before going into the different models, a word here on business models, how we understand that. As I mentioned before, we have a perspective we have a business perspective in this presentation. So we clearly speak about a business model for businesses, so which are organizations which create, deliver, and capture value. So a circular business model is, in this case, first a business model for a company. So it needs to make economic sense. And it is circular because it aims at decoupling the activity from the consumption of finite resources, which is the basis of the circular economy. But we are here really speaking about economic business models. The most popular approach, probably the one from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. It is not only dedicated to businesses, but it concerns the businesses, which is building on those 5 principles: design out the waste from the beginning of the conception of the product, build the resilience through diversity, rely on energy from renewable sources, think in systems, and use the waste from different products or the food for other ones. And this is illustrated in these pictures with those circles. Probably this illustration you all know, and presents the different circles, so inner circles to outer circles. If we look here at the materials and the manufacturing part, we see you can repair, you can maintain, you can reuse, redistribute, refurbish, remanufacture, recycle the different circles here. And there is a similar approach for biological nutrients, which can be reused different times, which can be recycled into in different ways, including turned into biogas, can be restored, going back to farming. They can be, all those can be recovered. They can contribute to energy recovered or go to the landfill. And the objective is to reduce, of course, to the minimum the energy recovery and the landfill, to keep everything into those loops, being the manufacturing loop or being the biological nutrient loop. So the use of those loops. This is the basic for the approaches. The sources of value, because this is what the businesses are looking at. Where is the value into that? So you have the power of the inner circle, which reduces the material usages. So this means costs, reduce costs. If you do that, so you save potentially on material, on labor, on energy, and capital embedded in the product. It's not an easy calculation to make, but definitely that's something to look into that. The power of circling longer, so you keep the value by reuse, manufacturing, recycling. If you have value into your product, you keep the value in the market for a longer time. So this can be also interesting. That is a source of value. The cascade used, if you have diversified reuse across the value chains. That can also help to generate value. And the pure cycles, which is the full recycling of the materials. So you have product longevity, material productivity, which is also a source of value. So those are four basic sources of value to be considered from the perspective of businesses in this model. For more details and for looking into also how to apply this to some extent, you can find here further resources and further readings, which I recommend to have a deeper understanding of the approach and how it can be applied. The second approach, the one from the consulting company Accenture, which has identified also sources of values. They have another way to look at it a little bit. Also, they look at what is wasted. So you have wasted resources. So you should avoid to waste resources. So this is one approach to look for value. You have wasted life cycles because some products have short working lives, shorter that needed, and they could be reused. You have wasted capability because products are not used. They just, like cars a typical example, they just are there. And cars typically, it's from different studies, it's a figure which is commonly agreed upon that around 90% of their lives, on average, cars are just parked somewhere. And you have wasted embedded values, which are components, materials, energy that are currently not recovered and could be recovered. Of course, there is always a trade-off to make. What is the cost of recovering this? But those are basically the sources of value. Look at what is wasted and try to avoid this waste. To make the approach practical, Accenture has defined 5 main circular business models, which you can see on this illustration. So you will recognize some of the approach from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So you have the recovery and recycling approach, resources or energy. You have the product life extension. You have the product as a service, which becomes also more and more popular. So instead delivering the product, you deliver a service. You have the sharing platforms, which increase the use rates through sharing different models. We can come back to the cars here. So the car sharing options, for instance. Also, for the product as a service, the car can be provided as an example. Because I use the cars because everybody is not usually familiar with this, more or less familiar with this product and this industry. Volvo currently is making huge advertising. You do not buy your car, you buy the mobility on a monthly basis and things like this. And the circular supply chain. Sorry, I went too fast. Circular supply chain, which is you use only renewable energy, only bio-based or potentially completely recyclable materials. This implies that the product is designed as a circular product. There is a second level of those business models, so sub-models, which I will not read here in detail. You have the materials. We'll have the materials in the presentations. I will also provide you with additional supporting materials. But it's quite interesting to go into details and to look into that, how that could apply to different companies. And this illustration I find also quite helpful. to show. You have here a typical linear value chain, and it is here illustrated how those 5 business models can intervene and can make it more circular. So it's the loop principle of the Ellen MacArthur illustration, but broken down to a singular value chain of a manufacturing company. So this I found quite useful to understand. And the technologies that go with that, that is also an interesting work of I think here to see which kind of technology can help to support the development of the circular economy. And it's with this typology, blue technologies here. Blue ones are digital technologies. The green ones are physical technologies, which help more and more. And the yellow one are biological technologies. It's targeting manufacturing company, but it can be something to look into from different perspectives, probably. Here are the main resources I would recommend to you. And I will show one of them, if I have time, by the end of the presentation. Not because I think the Accenture model is the best one, but because it's very, very well documented with respect to the application into businesses. This is the main reason. So other models are not worse, but it's not always easy to find the proper documentation. A similar model with a little different approach is from the PricewaterhouseCoopers, with different principles for business, how to approach circular economy. Similar, prioritize renewable inputs, so circular sourcing, sustainable design, resource efficiency. Maximize the product use, so product as a service model. You have the sharing here. You have the optimization, the maintenance, the repair, the reuse. You will refine this. And recover the byproducts and waste, typically recycling from consumption, recycling from manufacturing, refurbishing, remanufacturing. So you find the typical approaches, but it's interesting to have it broken down, be it by Pricewaterhouse or by Accenture, into very specific steps which can be relevant to any business. Here a table shows a bit the definitions. So they come up with those 10 strategies, 3 approaches, 10 strategies. Also very logical, very clear. Also think a very interesting way to start to look into your business's approaches from different levels. Similarly to Accenture, they have a look at different technologies. Here an example. Technologies they focus here more on digital technologies, including the additive manufacturing, 3D printing. So also that you can find in the resources. Those 2 documents I would, in this case, recommend as a start. There are public documents, not so you can download them from the web. You can use them. That's fine. I have here another approach from another perspective. This is a governmental agency, the Netherlands Environment Assessment Agency. They also worked on their model based on the literature, and they have especially this also this systematic use, which is very close to what the PricewaterhouseCoopers models. So the different strategy: recover, recycle, repurpose until refuse. So avoid a product which is not produced is the most circular most circular product. So this is also a way to look at things in a logical, structured framework, which is quite helpful. This is the literature basis for this, with some explanation how they want to apply that in the work of assessing projects in the Netherlands. So I found it also quite interesting. I will show now some examples related to some of those categories which I mentioned. Examples from the industry. It's a few one, but we have more of them. I will show that also, and this will be made available also to everybody and will be developed further. So if you look here at the example, this is the cradle-to-cradle clothing from the Trigema company in Germany. And this is also the reason why I'm wearing this red shirt today, because it's a shirt from Trigema company, cradle to cradle. So when the shirt is old, I have to take off the buttons of the shirt, and I can put it in my garden and it will return to earth, and it will degrade and be fully compostable. I don't know how it's so I put it in my garden, and at some point it will become part of the earth in my garden. So I thought I would show it today, not making a specific promotion for it, but I wanted to test it. So let's see. But mine is new, so it's not in the garden yet. But this is an example. So it's cradle to cradle clothing. So they don't take it back, but everything you wear, you can put it into your garden. So it's not going to any kind of landfill or whatever. So it's biological recycling from the clothes. This is one example. So, here you have a company which is capturing CO2 into concrete, and because concrete is a very widely used material for building, and so it's in terms of masses, it's huge, and the production of concrete contributes to a large part of the global CO2 emission, and it's the construction concrete is the world's single largest waste stream, the company says. I didn't check it, but I had similar studies going into the same direction. So they try to look at a value chain which enables to capture the CO2 into concrete and reduce the waste also of concrete. So this is fully another area. Sharing platform examples. So sharing platforms, you know a lot. So I didn't want to show BlaBlaCar or whatever. So this is something, a Finnish platform, for instance. They have an auction platform where public sector organization can sell what they don't need, the equipment, machines, whatever. If I take an example, for instance, my personal example, my wife is working for Deutsche Bahn, and no, they will just move in another building, and so there will be new furniture, and they're doing nothing with the old furniture. They will just throw it away. I mean, the people working there in the building, they're able to bring it back home, and everything what they do not take will be thrown away. So this is a way to look at this kind of things. So that's a public platform. It's and of course you have a lot of Airbnb and BlaBlaCar and so on. I have made some other examples. You have the hyperlink here, so you can look into into that, but that is a quite famous model currently. The product as a service. So there are very different ones. So I tried to look into models which are not maybe commonly known, but it depends on the people. So here it's also from Finland, a Finnish company who provides the oiling as a service. So the fluid performance into the different equipment. So they have a way to track what is the status of the oil you use for in your products and so on. And basically they sell you a performance that your product is oiled and works in a nice way, and they change or recycle whenever necessary. So it's the lubrication as a service model. So typical industrial services. So it's not only in the B2C, it's also in the B2B area. Yeah, another company, Cone Cranes, who takes care of developing parts for industrial process and rebuilding the parts, or by reverse engineering technologies, they can repair some of the parts and so on, or make them to order to very specific. So it's, and they try to increase the life cycle of the parts. So the service is that they develop they extend the product, the lifetime of your products, of your tools, of your manufacturing tools. Also an interesting approach. Also very business oriented approach. Waste as a resources, an example which is more for the customer. The large public Upcircle creates cosmetic from waste. So you can have a look also there on their homepage how they are doing, what they are using. So very different models. Cafe Form, I think here's the German company. They use coffee grounds and other renewable resources to produce coffee cups. So they stay into the same market, let's say. So you have cups like this or like this, made out of coffee grounds and other renewable resources. Also for the larger public. So that's another type of models. I would try to show something else. Yeah. Hope that works. Yes. What we have done in addition, I've shown here some examples, but I have looked at different sources of information and developed here this list of websites. They work normally. They are not all in English, but they work normally with different industrial models. Waste as a resources, there are many of them. You can see reuse and repair, product life extension, different models. Renewable resources model, basis model, there are different examples. Product as a service also lists. The resource efficiency and waste prevention is still a bit short as a list, but it will evolve. And the sharing platforms. So this list will be available with the materials of the workshop of the session today. Probably it will be soon available on the website of Citycircle, and it will be further developed until the end of the project. So it's a starting point, and we will work together with the other work package leader to see what we can reuse out of that. So this is one interesting resource. What I also wanted to show, I mentioned it before, is the circular economy business models for the manufacturing industry from Finland. It's also a public document. you can use it. I can use it. It's, of course, we should mention the source, but it's public. And this I liked it, as I mentioned before, because it develops very well, in a very detailed way, how you can apply the approach to specific industries. And here you can see in this document, I will not go to everything, of course, different aspects, and especially, I guess, relevant if you want to develop or to implement an approach to circular economy business model in your own regions, are the chapters on how to design this, how to do that with working with companies, and how to look into different industrial sectors. And I would maybe just take a few moments to look into that industry deep dive. Here you see in Finland they had a detailed look at the machinery and equipment industry, the marine industry, which is an important one in Finland, and energy and transportation. And I can just show a bit what they do here. So the different sector for sectors, and here especially what they did, they looked at different examples, and you can recognize here basically the value chain and the circular approaches. They looked at examples, good examples. They looked at the key products and services, an example of what some companies do already do in terms of circular aspects, and then they made a detailed approach. Unsustainable materials, what is the state, capabilities, the short product lives, waste, end of life value, what is the current state of the art in the industry, and they tried to illustrate with data. Like, for instance, here, if you look at product lives, typically product lasts for more than 10 years, some even more than 30 years, but they are replaced earlier, and things like this. So they went into some more detailed analysis. This basis, of course, on interviews with companies and so on. It's just not, and they tried to have a look how you can apply this. And they gave example, modular product design, for instance. What does it mean, and what do companies do? So here they have two examples from companies, what they do with respect to circular supply chain. Other examples in terms of sharing platform, what can be done? Performance as a service, very concrete examples. Here, remanufacturing, specific examples. Recovery and recycling. So into this book, you will find a lot of examples. What can be done on the company level, and this I would, for those who want to go into those details, I would recommend looking into those examples. From this finished book. And in my presentation, I will not go into detail here right now. You have also this business model canvas, which I included, which is not typical for the circular economy, but it's quite a lot used in the right now in the investment world and the startup world to have a look at projects, and it enables you to look at the to look at the main parts of a business model. It is nine parts, starting from the value proposition, value, and how you're going to do that, customer relationship, customer segments, the different channels to reach the customers, and so on, the activities, the partners you need, the resources, cost structure, revenue streams. So it's very often represented in that way. So it is not specific to circular economy business models, but it's a nice way from, I think it's a very structured way to look at business models, and that can also make sense to use it when you look at it from the perspective of a circular economy business models, because as I mentioned, a circular economy business model is first a business model. So that is also the last thing I wanted to show for today. So my recommendation, basic recommendation of what I've seen from here is that, yeah, there are plenty of models. You can look into several ones. It's not so important probably the one you will select, but it's quite important to have a systematic approach to it, and an approach which also builds on example. That is why I liked and I took the one from Accenture, because it's a place where you will find good examples, which you can maybe translate to our region. So the documents will be provided, and they will be also publicly available on our website. So if you have questions for the few minutes that we have, I will be happy to take them, and hopefully also being able to answer them. František, I'm just trying to stop showing my screen. Don't know if that works.
Look, just a question, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I find it interesting, and it might be the case that in some countries we would kind of translate this in national languages or so, and I wonder how is it designed? Is it will it be I mean, how it will look like, all this material you presented? Will it be something designed and so on, so we only can translate it and print it, or is it something else? Is it composed of different, I don't know, materials, some digital, some printed? How does it look? Yeah.
Okay. For now, it's all digital, but it's not easy to translate directly, because some of the illustration I take from other reports, which I mentioned the sources. So, but it's all digital. It will be all PDFs, so you can at least start using it. I will need to discuss with the communication lead partners how we can do that in terms of publication on the website, because for instance, if I look at the list of business models, of examples from companies, it's basically hyperlinks to websites and so on. So we'll need to discuss how we display it in a way that is accessible easily. I just don't know how it will be displayed for the public access. That's the question mark. Right now, it's the result of my research with some colleagues at Bevicon, but it's not ready for publishing, or for an easy way to publish, except that providing a series of PDFs. Of course, this is available.
Okay.
Everything is PDF available.
Yeah. Okay, I understand it.
Hello, Nina here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So another question for you, Luke. You've given such an interesting insight into all these business models and presented them in a really nice and structured way. I'm wondering, since your organization works businesses, how would you assess the organizational readiness? Like, do you get like positive feedback, or is it a mixture? How do you see the development and deployment of these models in, well, I guess in your region for a start?
Yeah, that's a difficult question because we are just starting. Until now, in Baden-Württemberg, of course, some companies work on that. I mean, it's not that's not new, and many companies did not wait for that. So we've started in the framework of another project, which is called Circular 4.0 in the Alpine program to investigate with companies, and it is still difficult. It is still difficult from the first experiences because we have not been able right now, and there are some tools which I would like to explore more. It is not easy to demonstrate with figures the interest, the direct economic interest for companies, and we have not managed yet to make this stage efficiently. How to demonstrate to companies. We do not have a tool which enables us to go to the company and to say, okay, we will perform an audit in your company, and at the end we come back with your information and we process it, and we can demonstrate that you can make 20% more income or save. So we don't have that yet, and that makes it quite difficult. And if you remember, we had this webinar with the Finnish presentation, and they explained that it took them several years to go into companies to analyze the waste, the different streams, and to make a significant database and to look into that. So right now it is for us still a challenge if we do not have a good answer to that beyond of course the use of the recovery of wasted energy and things like this, which make obviously sense. But going further, it's not yet easy. I do not have a good answer to that today. There is an understanding of the businesses. There is so that's a positive feedback. There is from the business organization, representing organization, that there is a positive feedback. It's very clear in Baden-Württemberg on different levels that this needs to be done. On the single business level, we do not have a clear tool. I don't think others have it in Baden-Württemberg right now on a large scale, how to provide a single business a direct answer. Okay, this is what you should do. And probably there is also a lack of expertise on the business support organization side still. So it remains beginning.
Thank you.
Okay, it seems we do not have more questions. So thank you very much, Luke, for this very comprehensive input. And looking at the time, we're a bit, not a lot, but really a bit late. So I would say let's have 8 minutes of break, and we will start at 11:40. I think we all deserve a break, some coffee or something sweet. So enjoy it, and we'll be back at 11:40 in the joint training of Citycircle Hub staff members, and this is intended only for the Hub staff members working within the Citycircle project. Thank you. Well, maybe I forgot. I would like to say thanks to all who are not joining for being with us today, and I hope you got some experience, you learned something new, and you will be able to use it in your work. And I hope you will join us next time as well. So thank you again for joining us, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.